As each thing becomes more simple, it benefits everything that you will ever do in the future. So the next song becomes that much easier to learn. So that's the good part about being willing to put in the practice on these things. Hey there, again, it's Micah. I want to address a very common issue that I see among beginner guitar players. The problem is trouble strumming when you switch chords. So your strumming either stops or slows down every time you go to change chords. A very, very common problem among beginner guitar players. But it actually goes beyond that. It actually even goes into your better guitar players. The difference is what they're used to and what they are not used to. So even myself, I might have this problem if I were using a very difficult chord shape that I don't use very often, or a difficult rhythm that I've never done. The difference is over the years, I've done a whole lot more rhythms than a beginner has. Okay, I'm good at many, many rhythms, and I'm used to doing them. And the other thing is I know a lot of chords. I don't have to think about what they are and how to do them, where they're, what frets or whatever. I don't usually have to think about something like that because I've done it so many times. I don't have to think about it. Now, with beginners, we all have the same problems. We just have them at different levels. So with beginners, whatever you're having trouble doing, it's because of your multitasking. The brain does not multitask well. I don't care who you are. Our brains do not multitask well. What we do when we multitask is we are doing something that does not require our full brain capacity or our full attention. Different things at different difficulties require different amounts of brain capacity or different amounts of attention. So if a chord is hard for you, then it's going to require a lot of attention. Okay, you're going to have to think hard for it. If a rhythm is hard for you, then you're going to have to think a lot about that. So when you go to put those together, when they come together, it's not going to flow smoothly. So what ends up happening, let's just say you have a certain amount of brain capacity, which is true, we do. I believe you can grow your brain capacity. I believe that, but that's a different topic. Let's just say, though, you've got this much. From here to here is how much brain capacity that you have. Okay? Now, let's say that your rhythm takes up this amount of brain capacity. Okay? So from here to here, and hopefully you can see that. I think you can. And then your chord, the difficulty of the chord, say that you're going to, takes up this amount. Okay? So as you can see, you've got this amount for rhythm, this amount for chord. You don't have enough brain capacity to do them both at the same time. So what do we have to do? We have to make them easier. How do we make them easier? Well, we either make the chord easier, so we don't have to think as much about it. You know, less fingers, fewer fingers, a smaller piece of the chord. That's a way to simplify it so that maybe it no longer takes up that much capacity, but it only takes up this much. So you can continue your rhythm and then change into that more simple chord. Okay, now what about, we could say keep the same hard chord, but we could simplify the rhythm. So we kept the same hard chord and we simplified the rhythm to a more simple rhythm so it fits in there. And that would work, okay? It has to be easier. Okay, you can't try and do two things that are too hard. Now the other thing that we can do is we can develop what I call the autopilot, or a lot of people will call it muscle memory. You develop this thing, it's like breathing or chewing whenever you're eating or talking. We have these things that we can do without thinking too much about them. Why? Because we're good at them. You know, walking and talking at the same time. Driving and talking at the same time. a lot of, we've become used to them, so they don't take up as much thought. So when you're playing guitar, we want to do the same thing, but the only way you're going to develop that autopilot or the muscle memory is to become very used to it. How do you become very used to it? By doing it a lot. You do it so much that you don't have to think about it anymore, okay? Now I'm not telling you what you don't want to do is just keep doing it the way you're doing it. Keep trying to strum this rhythm and slowly switching to the next chord, okay? You can do this, and sometimes people will continue to get better very slowly, but eventually they will conquer it. But that's the slow way of going about it, okay? And the best way to go about it is to practice on that thing, okay? And practicing on that specific thing is not fun. It doesn't sound like a song. It doesn't sound like anything. All you're doing is this boring practice drill. And why a lot of people struggle for so long is because they're not really willing to do that, because it's kind of boring. And I'll admit, yeah, practicing can be kind of boring. I practice. I don't always practice, but I do practice, and it's not the most fun stuff. It's not, you're not necessarily playing a song or this or that. You're working on something. It's work. But when you become good at it, then it becomes fun. It's easy. It sounds like music. We enjoy doing it. So you have to practice these things. Okay, so when we're trying to do two things, okay, we're multitasking. We are changing chords or playing chords or whatever. We are playing a rhythm. We're trying to do both. Our brain capacity isn't enabling us to do them both at the moment. Okay, so what we have to do is make one easy. We can do that by decreasing the amount of skill that it takes to do it, or we can do it by increasing our ability to do it. And this is what you really want to do. You want to increase your ability to do that. How do you do that? You work on the one, okay? You work on the rhythm by itself, okay? You hold one chord and you work on just that rhythm. And you do that always do it with a metronome. At very least, do it with a song or the song that you're trying to play, okay? But I really encourage using your metronome and using slower speeds, medium speeds, and faster speeds, multiples, and do them for 3 to 5 minutes. Hold one speed for 3 to 5 minutes. And again, it's not fun to sit there and jam on a rhythm for 3 minutes by itself. It could be kind of boring, but you are getting used to it. You're getting more and more used to it, okay? And then you're doing different speeds of that, okay? So the faster you can do it, the easier it becomes at slower speeds. The faster you can do it, the easier it becomes at slower speeds. Okay, then you're holding one chord. If you're trying to do a song with 4 chords, when you're very good with the one chord, add in 2 chords. So you only switch 2 different chords. So you don't have to think as much about the chord changes. Okay, so and again, the speeds stay consistent. You're practicing, not the fun stuff, but it's the work stuff. The next thing, say chord changes. You can simplify a chord from, say it's a G. You could just play the bottom part of a G or the bottom 3 strings of a G. If it's a C, you can just play those 3 strings, or at the bottom, or the higher sounding parts. D, you're not really going to be able to do much of a smaller D than that, but you could, but don't worry about that. So you see what I'm doing though. I'm simplifying whatever the chord is that's giving you that might be giving you trouble, if it's a specific chord. Okay. Now, also with the chord changes, when you're practicing your chord changes, you're separating your rhythm from your chord changes. Practice your chord changes for the song, that whatever the song is that you're trying to play. Practice them. Strum it once, move to the next chord. Strum it once, move to the next chord. Strum it once, move to the next chord. I had a video about this in the past, but I'm going to say it again. Stop wasting your time doing some random rhythm that doesn't really make a lot of sense on these chords. You're not really doing anything with that, okay? You might be making yourself feel like you're doing something, And it might even kind of sound like you're doing a little bit more than you are than if you just were doing this. But you're not making your rhythm really any better, because the rhythm that you're doing is the amount of rhythm that you already have. Okay, that's what you got. You're not doing a more difficult rhythm. With the chords, you're holding that chord. You're just holding the chord. So you're holding the chord, then you're not exercising your chord changes. So you want to do this. You want to just go chord, 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 chord. Coming back to the metronome, use the metronome so that you know that, so that something is making you change chords at a certain, on a certain tempo or at a certain amount of time, so that you're not just doing it as fast as your brain feels like doing it or your muscles will let you do it, but there's something pushing like an urgency to make you move a little bit faster than you would. You're not going to do it without a trainer or something pushing you. So using your metronome as your trainer to make that happen is going to be a big thing. So all in all, you're trying to make these two things that were taking up more brain power take up less. They become more of an autopilot for you. They don't take up as much here. The only way to do that is to really exercise and get a lot of repetition. You really need to do these things like thousands of times. I mean, literally, everything that I do, I've probably done millions of times. Forget all this stuff about shortcuts and the super easy this or that and blah blah blah. Yeah, we all want shortcuts and easy, but the truth about it is, if it's not easy already, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to work on it. But if you really want it, if you really want to play guitar, you can. You just got to put in the work. The shortcut is putting in the right work versus just doing whatever you feel like doing and doodling around and jump from this video to that and blah blah blah. You're not going to get anywhere, and where you get is you're not going to get there very fast. Okay, you need to have a direction. You need to have a direction that you're moving in. So, and you need to have that discipline to at least spend some of your free time, some of that time practicing, because the practice is what's going to get you really what you want. It might not be the fun part of it, but it really is going to get you to the point that you will be having more fun, because what you're doing will eventually sound like music when your skills are at a higher musical level. Well, I guess that's a very funny way to say that, but whatever. And to make the video a little bit longer than it already is, adding in singing at the same time. Okay, now you're not only switching chords, you're not only strumming, but now you're talking about remembering words, a melody, hitting notes that might be hard for you to hit, trying to remember, how did I hit that note? Sometimes you got to kind of work your mouth a certain way, or your throat. All these things come into play. These are things that a person who's performing have to think about at a certain point. But the more they've done them, it becomes more of the muscle memory, more of the autopilot, and it doesn't take up as much brain capacity. So if your strumming's taken up from here to here and your chords are taken up from here to here, you can do that, but you really don't have any room for cramming in what it's going to take for you to sing. So again, you got to simplify your rhythm and your chords even more, or you just got to get that much more practice at them. Okay, and typically what I do whenever I'm doing that, working on singing and playing at the same time, if it's hard for me, generally these days it comes pretty easy because I've exercised it in so many different songs. But if I were learning a new song and it was a difficult rhythm and the melody was kind of odd and maybe I had to hit a hard note, I would usually have to take each part that was difficult for me, slow it down to a level that I can actually make it work for myself. Slow it way down, and then I'll build it back up. As my abilities grow and as the muscle memory gets there, as I remember how I did that over and over and over again, then it becomes more simple. And then as each thing becomes more simple, it benefits everything that you will ever do in the future. So the next song becomes that much easier to learn. So that's the good part about being willing to put in the practice on these things. Anyways, that's all I'm going to say on this video because it's getting kind of long. I hope that was helpful for you. Let me know if you got any more questions about this. Again, my name is Michael Lipsmeyer with 90 Day Guitar. Love the questions, love the emails. It's fun, it's helping me, and I think it's helping other people out there. So keep them coming, and I will see you soon in another video.